The Square Ball Podcast.
Welcome to the show. It's brought to you with Levi Solicitors, who will offer you a 10% discount on your legal fees. levisolicitors.co.uk/the Square Ball. Dan, Michael and Rob, as we talk about the great legal services they offer. Your favourites?
Well,
Wills
probate conveyancing, the favourites.
Yeah.
It's what the tattoo says, isn't it?
Yeah, they're your base.
For your the Levi's Ultras are really into the big three.
But Rob likes some others.
What do you like?
He's a less traditional man.
It's all the negligence.
Yeah, you love the professional negligence.
And the medical one as well.
Yeah, dispute resolution as well.
Love that.
What we like best is the online booking system, which means they can help you no matter where you are in the country, in the UK. Have a look at that online, please, and just rescue me, please, from these two imbeciles here. levisolicitors.co.uk/the Square Ball. Part 2 of the show is the preview, which was thrown together in about 2 minutes ahead of this section recording. Because why?
It's busy.
Just busy and forgot.
Busy and that.
Well, actually, we are...
Been unpacking T-shirts, mainly.
Yeah, fair enough. We are privileged in that the press conference started about 10 minutes ago, so the comments are coming through right now. Normally, we reserve this for the Phil Hayes show. Bringing it to the big one, aren't we now? The big show. Long story short, need to finish better. Could play Ruta up front with Bamford, not giving away too much on injuries.
What did you say about injuries? What was his exact phrasing of it? It sounded worrying.
They're in the best hands.
And we're talking about...
It sounds like they might not pull through, doesn't it?
Verba, Strike and Cooper, all our left-sided centre-backs, all on death's door.
Oh. Okay. Well, I mean, Verba was just rested, wasn't he?
It was weird that because
Fulham.
there was talk that he dislocated his shoulder against, was that Southampton or the game
No,
before? That was Everton.
It was Everton.
And he supposedly popped it back in, but then he was fine to play against Southampton.
It could be that they're giving him injections just to see him through, like he's prepared to play through it.
Sounds really painful.
Yeah, is it something that they can just postpone until the summer? You know? But yes, I agree. It does sound painful.
Just get on with it, I say, with a perfectly functioning shoulder and not having to play football with it. But yeah, that is a bit worrying. Strauch's a worry because it was Everton, wasn't he? He got hit in the head with a football against Everton. And if he's still not right, because it didn't, knowing zero about concussions, but it didn't look like a bad one, did it? It's not like it wasn't a knee or an elbow or anything to his head. It was just a football. But if you still have it suffering with it, that's a bit worrying.
Yeah, I can't remember whether it was before Southampton or before Fulham, where Grathia said he was sort of towards the end of his concussion protocol, but then he said he's still suffering with symptoms, which, yeah,
it was like blurred vision stuff, wasn't it? So you do wonder. I'm just having a look at the weight of a football for the start of a match. So football, it says in the FA rules, 16 ounces or 450 grams or thereabouts for a football. So that's like a pound in weight, basically. If I lobbed a 1 pound weight at your head, Michael, dead fast, do you think you'd be fine?
There's only one way to find out.
I've got a big head. I'd worry for the weight. Truth be told. How much? 450 grams?
Yeah.
It does sound quite heavy now you put it that way.
Yeah. If you had something slung at your head very, very quick, it was kicked awfully hard, wasn't it?
It was Rashford, wasn't it? I think. Oh, no, was it in that game?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Scumway, it was Rashford. What an absolute pig.
He's supposed to care about people, isn't he?
Exactly. It's to look at it another way, it's like having 15 bags of scampi fries thrown at your head.
Is that right, is it?
Imagine that. Or just one big scampi fry.
A 1 pound scampi.
Could make one.
It's a Tuesday night in Ponty, that, isn't it?
One image. Big flying.
Yeah, anyway.
Scampi fry. Finishing at the other end of the pitch. I mean, we're laughing at a man who got concussion here. Feels bad. Up at the other end of the pitch, the finishing has been an issue. Yeah, he's pointing out the stats that 16 shots at Fulham, of which 12 were inside the box. The stats are clear, but football is not stats. Tell that to the stat people.
There's going to be a lot of upset people about that. But yeah, I enjoyed Adam Pope's interview with Tyler Adams on Wednesday, and he asked Tyler Adams how they can improve their finishing. And Adams was like, I'm the last person you should be asking about that, mate.
Yeah, he does have batty vibes about him, doesn't he, Adams? When he gets further up the pitch, you're just thinking he's not even going to try it.
Tell you what, though, when he does get that goal, he's going to enjoy it.
Well, it was his interview with Cagey, wasn't it, where they worked on a celebration of how he was going to celebrate his first Leeds goal.
And what was the upshot of that for anybody who's not seen it or heard it?
It was some American football celebration, I think. I can't quite remember what it was. It's like a little dance that's gone viral. And yeah, Tyler Adams was up for it, to be fair.
He did have a shot, didn't he, against Fulham?
Yeah.
dragged it wide.
It's a bit of him and Aronson with their foreshore shooting.
We have to be very prepared and focused for a demanding game, with reference to Chelsea, says Gracia.
That's good and generic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Could say it about any game.
That's all you need, isn't it, in these presses? It's what Jesse needed to do. Just get in, get out, 10 minutes, done.
We were touching on this in the Phil Hayes show for this week, actually, saying exactly that point, like the way that the presses have gone from this huge intrigue around Bielsa, not because he necessarily gave away too much, but just the way he spoke, the manner of his speaking and the translation kind of drew you into it. And then Marsh, who had a tendency almost like, it's like that thing of, they always say, don't you, if you're ever like interviewing somebody or whatever, is just go quiet, because somebody always feels obliged to fill the silence. And you got the sense sometimes that Jesse might have been a bit guilty of that, and then saying things that he in future regretted.
Yeah, bless him.
To this, where we're getting generic sort of manager output.
I mean, I used to dread having to write about Jesse's presses because you knew they were just going to go on forever and contain things that would really rile me, quite frankly. You just think, no, why are you saying this? Whereas I've really enjoyed Javi Gracia just getting in, saying the generic stuff. But there's always been like little hints of his personality in there as well. There's always little jokes and stuff to the journalists. I like him.
But he's not said anyone's the best player he's ever worked with or anything, which Marsh seems to have a new best thing every week, doesn't he? It's the best team, it's the best experience he's had, it's the best.
Yeah, you can be a little bit guilty, I guess, of over-egging the pudding there, can't you? In that you want to talk up your players all the time. Like Gracia said it today, the players at Leeds are good students, they learn very fast, they have the right attitude. Fine.
Good, though. Good isn't best.
Yeah. You've got to be careful not to pile too much pressure on them as well, because it does start to potentially sound disingenuous if you say it too much and you say it, a bit too often and overemphasize it. All the exercises are prepared with one objective. This is talking about training to try and feel in the next game what they are going to live, to try and anticipate.
Fair enough. Passing in that. That's what we seem to be doing a bit differently under him, is the main thing I've taken.
It will be interesting to see how this game contrasts in that regard with the home game at the start of the season, when Marsh Ball really, really worked and is one of the big ticks in the credit column. That one probably his high point, you would say, in terms of performance, wouldn't you?
Yeah, undoubtedly. From a fairly small pool, admittedly, but yeah, it was good. Everyone was loving it that day.
Yeah, that was the day when their player got sent off. I can't remember who it was.
Koulibaly. But
that was the moment where very, very briefly I just let myself think, we could win this. We could win the league.
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, at that stage, we didn't know Chelsea were terrible either, did we?
No.
We thought they were probably going to be, I don't know, sort of on the cusp of a title challenge, I would have said, because they strengthened quite a bit over summer, obviously strengthened quite a bit since.
I was going to say, and the good news is that they've spent hundreds of millions of pounds since and got worse.
Well, we seem to be better under Marsh when we didn't control possession. I just looked at the possession stats for that game. We had 39% possession that day, Chelsea 61, and yet it seemed to play to our strengths. And you wonder how that'll kind of factor into what Gracia is trying to do. And again, we were saying on the Phil Hayes show, weren't we? Like, we seem to be a little bit more set up to counter-attack now. Better in possession, but we seem to wait for our moments to try and hit teams on the break. And you wonder if this will have a similar sort of shape to it. I don't know. I find it quite intriguing.
We seem to not be throwing people forward in the sort of reckless way that we would occasionally just mean that they got through on goal completely unopposed, which did seem to happen quite a bit. So we do seem to have stopped that, which I approve of.
It was, again, going back to that Tyler Adams interview with Adam Pope, he was saying the idea now is not just to get the ball and go straight to the goal, which was obviously kind of a reference to what we were trying to do under Marsh. And he was saying, we don't want to be all-out possession, but we don't want to be all-out pressing, but it's just a case of taking 2 or 3 passes, moving the ball from side to side and trying to almost tire the opposition out that way as well, rather than it all just being frantic.
Some people took that as implied criticism of Marsh. Do you think it was?
I don't know if it's necessarily criticism, but it's just they're 2 different styles of play, aren't they? Like, he's only been honest with what he was being asked to do previously and what he's been asked to do now. It's like after the Forest game when everyone was like, "Oh, Bamford's dug Marsh out." It's pretty innocuous, isn't it? Really, he was just saying what was happening.
But yeah, people are always looking for things, aren't they? I mean, we do as well. You try and pull meaning out of what's been.
It's a bit like when
what's been said
when Calvin Phillips played in the back three at Spurs, and he got asked afterwards, "Well, why were you doing that?" I don't know. Ask the manager. And everyone saw that as a big criticism. It's like, well, he's the guy that played him there. Just ask him.
Yeah, he'll know the answers to that question exactly. Whereas I won't. Yeah. But that's the thing, isn't it, about how few access opportunities people get to to people post-match. And mind you, to be fair, did Bielsa answer that question? I can't even remember. I think he might have just said, yeah, he's good at that.
I picked him next. I thought he'd do well.
Yeah.
And he's done it loads of times before.
Up front, what would you go for in this? Again, we were chatting about this on the Phil Hay show. Phil gave us his thoughts. What about you, Rob? Would you go for your two up front in this, or would you maybe have the midfield three?
I'd maybe like to see Aronson reprise that role kind of just off the main striker, whoever that might be. You can sort of see the merits to that three in midfield, but I think part of the problem at Fulham was that we just didn't have someone close enough to Jorginho to help him out. So whether that's Aronson or whether that's Rutter himself playing in that role behind Bamford, I'm not too sure. But then, yeah, given it's Chelsea away, even though they are terrible, I won't be massively surprised if he stuck with that midfield three. I'm not too sure.
I think he might, but I think it'll be that same midfield, but with Bamford up front.
Right.
Probably. Even though I thought Rutter was the better of the two the other night, I think he probably goes with a more tried and trusted striker there. And I won't be surprised if Harrison comes in for Somerville as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a bit to give a bit more experience and work rate out there as well, because he kind of does his tracking back stuff. And obviously we need Jack Harrison in for the set pieces.
Did I detect a note of sarcasm in your voice, Michael? Here's an interesting thing.
Just get someone else to kick them straight out of play.
Talking about the shape of the team and how he's setting them up, the comment has just come through. Phil's tweeted saying that the players were playing well, Leeds were playing well when he came in. They just weren't getting the results. But his priority has been to make us more defensively solid without sacrificing the attacking threat. And he thought that with the Southampton game, we found the balance there.
You've seen it in the last two games where I don't think we've particularly looked defensive at all. But again, it was another Johnny Cooper stat that Leeds have restricted Southampton and Fulham to 0 big chances in both games under Gracia. And it's like the first time we've done that since October 2020. So it does suggest he's not far from getting that balance right, albeit Southampton are rubbish and, Fulham still beat us. So
I mean, what he's described there is essentially the basis of football tactics, isn't it?
Well, you are
trying to not let them score whilst trying to score ourselves.
As we've established, you are the Ponty Pep. So
I mean, yeah, that's kind of what
is that one of the basics you teach?
That's always what you aim to do, and not concede any while scoring some.
Here's an interesting contrast with Bielsa. Then Gracia is just saying he believes that work on the training pitch can make his players finish better. Believes the killer touch is something you can coach or help beyond the actual creation of chances. Whereas Bielsa kind of always left that one to the fates, didn't he?
I don't know. He definitely got them practicing stuff over and over again, though, didn't he? That's the thing with it. It was, I don't know if Jesse... Well, no one really knows what Jesse did on the training pitch, I don't think. We never got to see any insider footage of it particularly, did we? There was the little clips the club put out where people were just running around cones and crosses coming in and whatnot. But Bielsa's methods were so well known that I guess you sort of had what happened in a game happened on the training pitch, whereas with Marsh, because it was all just sort of pressing.
Yeah.
You sort of thought, what do we do with the ball in training?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Pressing.
Kick it towards the penalty spot. What of Chelsea in all this then? Because we did sort of followed a similar pattern with this when we chatted about it on the Phil Hay show. We found all the reasons within Chelsea's game why Leeds could get something out of this, and if ever there is a good time to play them, this might well be it. Because it's not an happy place, that is it? The Bridge at the minute. From
listening to bits of Chelsea fans for propaganda over the last few weeks, they just hate every player. is the problem? Like, just got a list. Like Mason Mount wants more money on his contract, so they hate him for that, and he's not playing well. Gallagher, they seem to think he's like a dog chasing a balloon. Yeah. Good energy.
Presumably, Mudryk is too expensive now.
They seem not turned on the very new players. The newest player they've turned on is Cucurella because he arrived in summer and he's rubbish. And I think
he's a Potter guy, though.
I was
going to
say, yeah. I think he's, even though Potter didn't sign him, he's worked with him, so he gets that. Sterling signing someone wasting money. Pulisic doesn't do anything. Koulibaly, not the centre back they wanted. Both of the goalkeepers are shit because obviously they spent 70 million on one and then another 30 million on one. Turns out they're both crap. Ziyech never scores. Havertz never scores. You don't get a lot for your money.
Well, they like Thiago Silva, don't they? And he's injured, so that's another good sign for Leeds.
Yeah, they seem to have left like Felix and Fernandes alone because they've just arrived.
Given that this could go any of the three ways, it certainly feels like it could, doesn't it? What do you hope for from this game? Not rather than what you expect. What do you hope for?
A win. there's no we could beat them. They're terrible. Their form is absolutely awful.
Yeah, I'm sort of trying to talk myself down from thinking we're going to beat these.
It's the danger of winning the game last week, and you start to think, oh, we can win again.
But also, you just look at the state of what they're in, and it was reported this week that even if they lose to Leeds and Dortmund in midweek, Potter's job's safe. But then in a couple of other newspapers, it was, well, no, of course we're having these conversations about what we do with Potter because it's all
the problem
an
is
absolute mess.
If they do sack him, what do you do with it? And the season's kind of gone anyway, isn't it? So
I think a big problem as well is that they've signed all these players, and then players like Mount and Gallagher and maybe Loftus-Cheek are still there going, well, we know we're going to get sold because they need to balance the books here. So, of course, they're not particularly arsed or in the best of form, which isn't really surprising. It was at the start of the month when they signed that Mudryk guy, and Graham Potter's like, nice one, great, good player, just no more, please. This is hard, coaching all these players. And then after that, they spent like another 200 million quid.
It's a shame, it's going wrong for them.
Yeah,
it's a real shame.
It's mad how you go in full football manager with £1 billion on FIFA kind of vibes, and yet it's not quite working. It should work, shouldn't it? Buy all the best players, chuck them all in there. Surely you win, but they don't seem to have quite got that formula right. It's funny.
When is it they won the Champions League? Like 18 months ago or something? Or is it a bit longer?
It was Tuchel's first year, wasn't it? Because it was when he took over from Lampard, who was full of excuses as to why they were doing badly, and then someone else just came in and went, just win the Champions League, you idiot. It's a piece of piss. We've got a really good squad here. And Lampard was like, oh, well, I did groundwork.
And then they've just gutted that same squad as well, which is quite impressive.
Yeah, funny old game, isn't it?
Do we want Potter anymore? Because, there was a time, wasn't there, when we started marching post and Potter was doing badly at Chelsea and thought these two things could end up lining up here, that we get him in. But
I don't know.
It's weird what a bad run does for a manager, isn't it?
I was going to say, whatever he does next is going to kind of define his career, because if he's done a good job at Brighton, albeit unspectacular, if you want to be unfair to him, it took him, created a steady Premier League side out of it. But then is it Zerbi who's gone in after him, De Zerbi, and they look so much better.
Yeah, or just sort of the same, just still being fairly good.
Yeah,
still with a good conveyor belt of decent players.
It goes to show you how important the structure is behind the scenes, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's weird with man. You don't employ a loser, do you?
But then I was going to say he's taken
a bit like Schroeder, I guess. We looked at his last job and went, "Oh, he's terrible. Look at his record. Everyone hates him."
I honestly thought you were going to go to Jesse Marsh then.
Well, yeah.
You could imagine Potter maybe somewhere like, if West Ham were to stay up, it'd end up there. In that it's not got quite the same profile, but it's
that payoff though.
Yeah, it's going to be huge. Isn't
Fair play. Take your money.
Well, are you looking forward to Saturday then? That's the question. I'm certainly looking forward to it a bit more than I was prior to Southampton, in that we've actually won a game. So
I am looking forward to it. I've got a feeling that you can bet your house on 0-0 now, but I've got a feeling it just might be a bit of Leeds madness. And it might be the game where you go like, sorry, Javi, it really is always like this here. Like, this is what it's really like.
But yeah, would take a point, absolutely.
The Square Ball Podcast.